And I think to me, this is like this is actually critical. And I think thinking about design on this level is like really critical because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it scares the fuck out of me that a guy like Facebook, like Mark Zuckerberg, is declaring that he's going to design our
Mm,
future. I mean, like, he's not even talking about a smart city. He's
Yeah.
talking about like the very experience. I mean, like, I couldn't think of anything
yeah.
more
Yeah.
scary, you know, in the world than Facebook being like, so. And I mean, this is not on the point of just being like a
Mm,
Luddite or something like that. This is like, I mean, if anybody's read the
mm.
news, and you think that that guy's not in jail,
Yeah.
that he's actually
Right?
he's like
Yeah.
declaring that he owns our
Yeah.
future.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's horrible. That's terrible.
And at least we know about
Yeah.
the things that Mark
And
Zuckerberg is
so,
doing. I mean, sometimes the things that scare me are the smart people we don't know about. Like, there could be a guy who is right now
mm,
building a virus to shut down the entire internet and nobody knows. And like and the thing that's really scary about it is there are people like that.
I
There are
know it.
people who have
Absolutely.
enough
Yeah.
knowledge of technology to completely remove it from everybody. But then you also get people who can't even like operate a TV by themselves, which I guess is a unrelated, interesting parallel.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a crazy that we live in this one
Mm,
world where you have, I mean, you have like people professing like, oh, we're gonna have them, the metaverse, and then I mean, where 85% of the world are struggling to get access to clean
Yeah.
water. But I mean, I suppose it's interesting, and I mean, as much as these things bug me as well, it's also, I mean, sometimes you also have to draw,
like,
you have to like bring it down and say, and you know, I do 100% agree that that's the role of design is
mm,
ethics. Like when we talk about design with a capital D outside the loop, it's an
mhm,
ethical objective, in the broadest sense of the
Mm.
word. But I also get that it's a very easy thing to sit back and we can
Oh,
have a nice
yes.
like
Yeah.
Wednesday
Yeah.
evening chat about these things.
Or
But
shift the
then you go to work,
responsibility.
who's
Yeah.
making yeah. But it's also you go to work and whose responsibility is it? I mean, who's supporting Zuckerberg? It's not the
Mm.
designers. It's like the venture capitalists.
mm,
I mean,
Yeah.
so I think that like designers often also fall into this, where we can be moral crusaders. We can say, "Oh, design's to blame for every problem in the 20th century," but I mean, I think if we want to make those kind of changes, I think we always let the financial people off the hook,
mm,
to a
mm.
large extent,
Mm.
and managers
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
shareholders. They seem to get away, you know. So
Yeah.
I tend to take a lighter, view on who's to blame for this stuff when we're talking from a design
Mm.
perspective.
No, and you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people who practice design, we we do kind of step back when it comes to taking responsibility for those things, especially when we feel it's not our place, and we leave it to, like you said, the people who manage the money and the finances, because we don't want to get involved. And I think as someone in the industry or in this discipline, we have to almost force ourselves to become more involved in, if it's our organization or our company, we tend to, work in silos, be very focused on only the product that we're busy with, instead of understanding the more holistic, let's say, the trajectory of the company, or what the roadmap is for the bigger picture, so to say, instead of just being zoomed in on the task I'm doing, because that makes it very easy to also then disconnect from the responsibility, or push the responsibility onto someone else, because we're only responsible, for this one thing I'm designing or creating right now, instead of almost embedding that in this one piece now, so that can be used as a tool to also help facilitate the creation of that roadmap or that vision for an organization or company.
I definitely agree with you, but and I think it is maybe it's a question of small battles that kind of add up to winning the war.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
but I also do think sometimes is you know, these people who are put in these positions where they driving these projects, they're running these companies. They also probably need to be held to more account for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of them know exactly what they're doing. And I mean, it's a difficult. I mean, because I suppose it's capitalism. How do we get out of capitalism? No one really knows these things. So I'm not pretending to say so. But I do think that it's a bit hard to expect your graphic designer to take the moral stand. When they're the person first to get fired. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think that's fair either.
Yeah. So what does that look like then? If we're all saying, yes, we should be taking more responsibility for the ethics in design and what that means in the larger scale of things. But what does that mean on a practical level, on what am I doing today level? Terence, you're a lecturer, so I'm sure you've, and I know you've written a lot of papers and comments on the ethics of design or design ethics. So how does that look on a practical level then?
Well, I think firstly when we're talking about ethics, it's very wide. I think it could be ethical, could fit from anything from plain old usability to like taking some kind of moral stand about a product which we think has got an inherent bias. The thing is, I think some people, you're never going to win every battle. Some battles are run just because they're shareholders and they need to make their 0.5% profit, because if they don't make their 0.5% profit, people that have put their retirement savings into like certain funds are going to struggle. I mean, it's finance is a big interconnected, difficult mess to unravel. Okay, I think a lot of the things is I think that in the last few years that have changed is people are definitely becoming much more aware of what it means to be an ethical human being, like in the corporate world. And I mean, I think in the world in general, even in Hollywood, some people are starting to learn certain things about the world, and I think those things are really important. Those kind of forces, they do have their effect, as much as sometimes they seem silly in the moment, like in certain circumstances you go like, oh, come on. But I think overall they are really positive, and they have got people to rethink a lot of the way they kind of perhaps maybe, particularly in South Africa, in a way almost like pretend they're going along with things like affirmative action, but not really, because no one's really going to check up. I think they've made a lot of the reasons behind a lot of those things, not just affirmative action, but a lot of those issues in the world, a lot more real to people. And I think corporate responsibility has like stepped up a bit.